So how many Pisces do we have here tonight? Oh, wow, half.
Start from the day. What day?
I'll talk about it in a minute. No, it will be fine in a minute. Is this on already? Yeah. All right, so we're going to start. Tonight, we're going to talk about the last Mazal, the last sign, Mazal Dagim, fish or Pisces. In the very, very beginning, when we started with the 12 signs, getting to know a little bit about the human nature, after all, we did discuss creation, we discussed the creation of the human being, his strengths, his weaknesses, his potential, that he's endowed with the neshama, which gives him free will. Nonetheless, it is important for us to get to know the human part of him, because the neshama is something which is more spiritual. And even though the neshama has great abilities, it is the ultimate decision maker. In order for us to make proper decisions in life, in order for us to know how to conduct ourselves, we have to come to terms with the fact that there is a continuous struggle between the neshama and the body, the physical body. We have the Yetzirah, the Yetzirah Tov, the evil inclination, the positive inclination. It is a battle of wills. Whereas the neshama wants to do the will of God, the body wants to do its own will, its own wishes, wants to be happy, wants to satisfy itself. They're very much conflicting wishes, conflicting desires, conflicting interests. To be able to get along, one has to have a roadmap, one has to have the strength, one has to know what his tachlit is, what his purpose in life is. If one is cognizant about his mission, if one is cognizant about his abilities, his strengths, his weaknesses, if one gets really to know himself, if he's familiar with what the real human being is all about and what life is all about, he has a better chance of succeeding. Rabbis tell us that statistically, human being may not really do well in life. His chances of success are not so strong. He may easily fail. Life is tough. Nonetheless, the Jewish nation, knowing that we have a mission, knowing that we have certain responsibilities, as long as we do not forget about ourselves, we do not forget about our mission, we have a good chance. After all, we are promised reward, and there's also punishment. And knowing all of this and being aware of all of this helps a lot. The whole idea of getting involved a little bit deeper in astrology was always to become more in tune with ourselves. That's what it's all about. And I did say in the very beginning, we're not really discussing, Judaism does not very much discuss and does not approve of getting too involved with the astrology that deals with futuristic events, with predicting events, even though there is some predictive abilities, because there are tendencies, there are trends, there are likelihoods based on certain mazalot. The mazal, after all, means the entire destiny of the individual, as it consists of when he's going to get married, how many children he's going to have, what kind of a job he's going to have. All of this is part of his mazal. But the other part of the mazal, which very much interests us, is the mazal that has to do with the personality, the individuality, which really also means the tools that he has been given in this world. If he knows how to use the tools properly, then he will succeed. He will be a good man, a good husband, a good father, a good friend, a good partner, and so forth. Jew or non-Jew. There are differences between Jewish and non-Jewish astrology. There are some differences, but a great deal of what we're talking about, the nature of the human being as it is described in astrology, is really pretty much common to the two of us. There are additional factors besides the month and the hour. It has to do with the genes, the education, the upbringing of one, and we should never forget that we have free will. Even though our nature is pretty much set in stone, you cannot change your nature, but you can control it, you can refine your character, you can learn to hold back, you can train yourself, you can develop habits. Habits become second nature, and in this way you can really become a better person. And that's the whole idea of these classes. It's not just out of curiosity, but it is also to really understand that every human being is special in some way. There is no good or bad mazal. Everybody contributes something. And obviously, and I need to repeat that, there are certain mazalot that are more compatible with each other. And that has to do with the elements. So one more time, for those of you who were not here, we have the earth, water, air, and fire elements. We have 3 mazalot in each one of the elements. Fire gets along with air, and water gets along with earth. But because we're not all 100% of any one element, what's always important to know if you look at a chart is what is the dominant element. And those of you who will be more dominant of a particular element will obviously get along with certain signs of the compatible elements. Those of you who are a mixture may get along with more signs than the typical ones. And as I said before, a lot of what you will hear, for those of you who are Pisces, may not relate to you 100%, but I guarantee you that a great deal of it, perhaps 80% or more, will relate to you, and you will see that in you, simply because it's very possible that you have a lot of water in you. Pisces is a water element. Okay, the water elements, Pisces, Cancer, and Scorpio, are the more sensitive and sentimental. There's emotion. The air elements, Gemini, Aquarius, and Libra, are the more intellectual, communicative, right? The earth element, Taurus, Virgo, Capricorn, practical, conservative, more rigid, more consistent, more serious. And then you have the fire elements, the Aries, Leo, and Sagittarius. They have an abundance of energy, enthusiasm, happiness. They are the ones that usually have the drive and the stamina to do things. And we need a little bit of everything. Hashem created everyone in this world. Everyone contributes. And it's a matter of getting to know each other so we can get along. Whether you're married or you're single, it's very helpful. And if we would know this and we would follow this, we would very much benefit from this. As I've always done, give a brief introduction about some points that can be seen in the sign. They're not necessarily related to the sign. Or it could be that the sign, Pisces Man, has something to learn. We all have something to learn, and there's there's something in every sign that we could learn from. Point number 1. As the Torah tells us, be careful not to look away from your own relatives' needs. A lot of us may be charitable, we may be kind, but as they say in English, charity begins at home. Charity begins at home is not only that that's where one picks it up, and definitely the children will be charitable if they see their parents are charitable, but charity begins at home has another interpretation, another idea, and that is you want to be charitable to those who are first closest to you. Don't go and do charity and be kind to others when your own relatives, your own closest relatives need it. So it may be very nice of you to be helpful to others, but if your own brother, your own sister, your own uncle or aunt, your child needs you, then that is where you should spend more time. That is what you should emphasize. That should be your priority, and you're not being biased. You're not being unfair. Yes, there are priorities. There is an order of who comes first. You can't be as charitable with everyone at the same time. You have a list of priorities. You have a list of who comes first. Those Jews in your community come first before others. Those that are living in Israel come first before others. There are halachot that guide us as to how to prioritize our kindness, our tzedakah. So the Torah makes sure that you should be very careful, even though it's nice to be kind to non-Jews as well. Obviously, those who are Jewish, we patronize, we support, we take care of them. They are our brothers and sisters. Nothing about being unfair. It is clearly spelled out black and white in the Torah. The Torah has to guide us. Why? Because if we were to just depend on our nature, and if you're a Pisces especially, you would be kind to everybody, you would be sensitive to everybody, and one has to know who comes first. Point number 2. Kol hanoten tzedakah le'ani, whoever gives charity to a poor man is blessed with 6 blessings. As the Gemara tells us, it's a beautiful mitzvah to give charity. But whoever encourages the poor man is blessed with 11 blessings. If you give him $10, $18, even if you give him $100, he has maybe a debt of $30,000. He has to cover an operation. He has to have a kidney replacement. Who knows what? You think that $18 will make a difference? Yes. Small change makes big change. Little by little, hopefully, we will alleviate his need of putting together the money. Everybody chips in. Good. But you know what? A nice word, a kind word, taking your time out, giving him a glass of water, allowing him into your home, hearing his story, that may do a lot more for him. Especially, we don't know what he left behind at home. A wife with 7 kids, pregnant, miserable. Who knows? So if we take the time, encourage him, talk to him, that is a greater mitzvah, 11 blessings. So encouraging someone, reassuring someone, speaking nice to someone is more important than the actual money that you give him. Tamim tiyeh Hashem Elokecha is number 3. We may have talked about it in the past. Be sincere in your faith with God. Tamim also means complete. Tamim means that you should have emunah and bitachon, complete reliance in God. We do not only believe that He created the world, we believe that He runs the world. He supervises the world. He's aware of our actions. That is part of the principles of Judaism, Ikarei HaEmunah. But to be sincere with God means at all times, whether things are going tough for you, we're being tested, always have faith in God that everything is for one's good and for one's benefit, even though it appears to be negative, appears to be no good. Everything that comes down from heaven is good. And there must be some benefit from us, even though it's not so apparent. Things are being delayed. Things are not going as planned. Tamim tiyeh, your faith needs to be complete. You need to be sincere. Not only when things are going well for you do you conduct yourselves properly, but obviously even when things are tough, and life can be tough, life has been tough for our forefathers, persecutions, right, and all sorts of problems, expulsions. Tamim tiyeh Hashem Elokecha at all times, even if your faith is being challenged. But the rabbis tell us, pay attention to these words. You know what you can infer from this point? What does it say? Be sincere in your faith in God. Tamim tiyeh only in Hashem Elokecha. What does that mean? Not with human beings. For those of you who were here before, kabdeu v'chashdeu, we spoke about how you need to respect everyone, but be suspicious of people's motives. Don't be naive. Or as we call it in Hebrew, don't be a friar. Don't allow people to take advantage of you. People take advantage. There are people like that. And some people are very vulnerable. And we're going to be talking about one who is vulnerable, Pisces. People take advantage of him. He's so nice. So be sincere, be tamim, im Hashem Elokecha. But now with people, don't be tamim, don't be naive, don't be so sincere and so open. Be careful. There are people there who are not so nice. So be tamim with Hashem, not with people. Be respectful of them, yes, but be very careful. Be suspicious. Point number 4, don't wrongly suspect the righteous. Lo lachshod biksherim. This is an important point. Something that is very similar to this is called ladun lechav zechu, to give everybody the benefit of the doubt, to judge everyone favorably. After all, we don't know what's going on in people's minds and hearts. It could be that even if he did something wrong, he made a mistake. He didn't intend it to be like that. He wasn't on purpose. How many times we come home and we suspect that our spouse was lazy perhaps, was not considerate, and that's why dinner is not ready. Well, maybe she had something very, very important to do. Something unexpected came up. Give always the benefit of the doubt. You will see that had you not given the benefit of the doubt, you would have made a big mistake. A lot of misunderstandings can be prevented. A lot of problems can be prevented if we judge favorably. Lo lachshod biksherim is very similar. Don't suspect those who are righteous. Those who have a good record, they have a good record. He's righteous. He's a good man. Why be suspicious that he did something evil? See somebody going into a McDonald's restaurant with a kippah, you're going to suspect that he's going to eat a cheeseburger? Chas v'shalom. Maybe he's going to the restroom. Maybe he's going to make a phone call. Maybe he's going to buy a Coke. There's so many other possibilities. Then why be negative? And especially if he's righteous, lo lachshod b'ksherim. Why is it so important not to suspect the righteous? Because even if something happens to us which we're not very, very happy, in other words, somebody did something to us, if he has a good track record, he was your friend up until now, he treated you very nicely, it's not nice and it's not fair for you to suspect that he did something against you. So don't wrongly suspect the righteous. Lo lachshod b'ksherim, chas v'shalom, it's a terrible avon. Because if you suspect, this may lead to lashon hara. This may lead to talk about him. This may lead to all sorts of problems. Families can break up. Neighbors can stop getting along just because they suspect each other. If you had a good track record before, don't ruin it. And the last one, idleness leads to boredom. The rabbis warn us, be very careful to always be occupied. Don't waste your time. Don't sit idle and do nothing. Sitting idle and doing nothing is very unhealthy. It leads to boredom, and boredom leads to all sorts of terrible things. Depending on one's mazal, if he's bored, you can end up doing something wrong. You can end up doing an avera, a sin. Keep busy. Keeping busy, especially for children, teenagers, is something very, very healthy. As adults, we're usually very busy. We are busy between our work, between our family responsibilities. There's not that much time for boredom. But if you have a problem, just remember it's very, very unhealthy. Okay, so tonight we're going to talk about the last sign, Pisces. With Pisces, I spent a little bit more time than with the other signs, even though a lot of things are pretty relatively straightforward with him. I put in an extra page that will show us how, very interestingly, Pisces encompasses a little bit of every one of the 12 signs. He's the last one, and as some astrologers would like to say, he's learned the lessons of each one. And I keep that towards the very end. For the most part, Pisces begins February 20th, not the way they have it here, February 19th. I think usually it's more likely like February 20, and goes to March 20, approximately, depending on the hour you're born, depending on the geographical location you're born. It can vary a little bit. They have a strong imagination. They're very sensitive and compassionate. They can be very selfless, sympathetic, but they can also be very secretive, and they can be easily led and influenced. This is just a basic description of the sign. As I've done in the past, we'll do it again tonight. We're going to give an overview of the sign, a real good overview. You will be able to identify one when you talk to him after a while. Sometimes you can tell when you look at someone what sign he is. After a while, if you get to speak to him, then you can be more reassured of which sign he is. We will see the difference between the men and the women, even though a lot of things apply to both. Some things apply more to the women. And then we will see some advice for how to deal with children who are Pisces, and some advice on how to deal with the boss who's Pisces. Pisces is known to be very sensitive and shy. Okay? So some of you may say, wait a minute. So is Scorpio, and so are some other signs. It's true. Sensitivity does not belong only to Pisces. But Pisces is perhaps one of the most sensitive. Water signs are sensitive, and Pisces, of all the water signs, tends to be very sensitive. If you are a Pisces and not very sensitive, if you are a Pisces and you're not that sensitive, it could be because of your hour, which I'll talk a little bit at the very, very end about what the hour does. But sensitivity and shyness is very typical of them. However, with all their sensitivity and shyness, they can be very talkative and amusing. He's a good listener, very good listener. You have a problem, you want somebody to listen to you, you can go to a Pisces, especially if you have troubles. Pisces can patiently listen to your troubles. His emotions are easily stirred up, and he can easily cry, easily, faster than almost any other sign. One of the most sentimental signs, who will show much sympathy and compassion for the weak and needy. Now there are other signs who will be charitable and be compassionate, but he's more than the rest of them. I did explain at one time that Leo, for example, is very charitable. But Leo does not do it out of compassion. Leo does it because he believes that this is the right thing to do. In other words, when he's giving the tzedakah, he's doing it for a different reason. He could be doing it because the halakha says so. Or he could be doing it because he feels very strongly about a cause. Pisces will give tzedakah because he feels, he's actually feeling in his heart for that poor woman in Tijuana who's carrying a little baby in the back of her, shoulders. Oh. Because of his sensitivity, criticism can easily scar him and cause him to drop out of whatever he's doing, discourage him. Criticism very much hurts him, especially if it's made by those who were close to him, those that he trusted. It could be very, very painful to them. Although he and Virgo will show compassion for the ill, Virgos are very good in being a nurse and helping out, in taking care of those who are ill. The difference between them in taking care of the ill will be that the Pisces will take the extra step of trying to understand the hearts of those who are burdened. He will actually take the time to listen to what the problems are, no matter how weird they may be. Pisces will not care so much about that the individual is ill, not emotionally stable. They will be able to handle very well, listen patiently to the problems. They can comfort the weak, even the ones that Virgo may feel are undeserving. Virgo is an earth sign. He may be a kapdan, somewhat he may be strict. He may say, no, I'm not taking care of this. He doesn't deserve it. They may say so. They may react so. Not a Pisces. Pisces will be compassionate and sympathetic, even though that individual does not deserve it. He has no prejudice whatsoever. And is very versatile. Versatile means flexible. We have certain signs that are not as flexible. Cancer is a water sign. He's not as flexible. Neither is Scorpio. Pisces of the water signs is the most flexible, very versatile. They are known to have strong precognitive powers and may sense or dream about something that will happen. Now this is true about any water sign almost. But I think, this is my feeling, and based on what I've read and heard from others, Pisces could have the most powers. You know what precognitive means? Premonitions, psychic abilities. They can sense that something's about to happen. They dream a lot about it. And whatever they dream about, many times it happens. So if they tell you, don't drive tomorrow to work because they had a dream about you, you may want to listen to them. Yeah. If you need a dime or a dollar or a large loan or just some encouragement, go to a Pisces. Now the Pisces may not like that I revealed this to you. But it's true. He is the one to go to if you want money right away, and as long as he has the money. So whether it's money or encouragement, they can give it to you. You will not get a lecture or glances of superiority from them. He will not judge anyone negatively. He's very understanding and accommodating, and will do whatever he can to help. They're very, very much interested in helping. He spends lots of energy helping relatives in trouble or taking on the burdens of friends, and in the process may not take good care of himself. This happens a lot. They really take on a lot. They take on the burdens of others, and sometimes, as a result of that, they do not take care of themselves. But here I pointed out that they take care helping their relatives, which is good. They're sensitive, they're kind, and if there's an uncle or a cousin or somebody that needs help, they will definitely do whatever they can. Because of their willingness to help, as I mentioned earlier, people take advantage of them. This happens only to maybe 2 or 3 signs, the most, that can easily fall. For con artists, for people who take advantage. And Pisces, because he's vulnerable, sensitive, wants to help, so all the ingredients are there for the people who want to take advantage to come. You have a loan? Can you help me? You have some money? And what happens to the Pisces when he realizes that he made a big mistake? When they finally realize this, they can pretend to be indifferent. Now, Pisces is usually not indifferent. He's sensitive, understanding. But all of a sudden, he's being indifferent. Whenever a Pisces becomes indifferent, you know that this is to avoid being trampled on. He's already learned it the hard way. He's not a fool. But initially, people do take advantage of them. They allow people to lean on their shoulder, but they also need someone to lean on. That's what's interesting about Pisces. Very interesting that people actually lean on them. They, after all, encourage them. But they also, very, very much, more than almost any other sign, need somebody to lean on. So if you feel that you have this need, and you are a different sign than Pisces, you may have Pisces in you. And that's why you want to lean on someone else. It could be the hour, it could be something else. They have humor and are masters of satire and can be practical jokers. Does everybody here know what a practical joker is? I mean, they have great imagination, can be very dreamy. You actually look at them sometimes and they're dreaming. It looks like they're dreaming. Many of them are artistic and enjoy music. Now, you can have a musician in every sign, but there are certain signs that are very musical. One of them is Pisces, the other one is Taurus. The other one is Libra. Very much into music, very artistic, great painters, performers, composers. They like leisurely surroundings and cannot be confined too long to one place. They like the easy life, leisurely surroundings. Power of leadership, rank, and wealth holds little attraction to them. You don't see them necessarily trying to become the boss and the leaders. A typical Pisces, now when I say typical, unless he has a Capricorn rising sign in his hour, a typical one may say, I don't want to be a millionaire, but I definitely want to live like one. You see the difference? What's the difference? A Capricorn or a Leo, or the ones who have ambition, depending what their ambition is for, they want to reach a certain point in life. They want to get somewhere in life. It's not necessarily the money. It's the position. It's the accomplishment. Pisces are not really leaders. And therefore, they're not looking for the wealth. They're not looking for the rank or position. But they definitely would like to live a good, easy life. And I wrote here that partially this stems from the fact that they don't care for too much responsibility either. They don't want to have all the responsibility of what it takes. If you see a rich Pisces, most likely he inherited the money. He didn't work for it. Yeah. They definitely enjoy the easy, lazy life. Most Pisces do not swim upstream and take the path of least resistance. Now, you know what it means to swim upstream? Salmon. The salmon is known to swim upstream. Something very difficult to do. Pisces is definitely not one to do that. He's known to take the path of least resistance. Doesn't want to work too hard. Which means, with the flow. Now, there's 2 problems over here with this. 2 problems. If you're a Pisces, listen very carefully. Even though it's true that in your nature you may want to take the path of least resistance, a Pisces usually will end up being happier if he actually took on a challenge and he succeeded in the challenge. That will bring him a lot more happiness than if he just took it the easy way. So it's something to think about. Even though it's easier, if you take on the challenge and you finally succeed, you'll succeed in a very, very grand way. You want a good example? Albert Einstein, Pisces. Now, even though he was involved in his formulas, but he didn't take the easy way out. Except for I heard when he was younger, he failed his math class. But I'm not sure really why that happened. But George Washington, another famous Pisces. Right? So you'll have some great Pisces, people. They didn't take the easy way. Now another problem with going with the flow, and this happens to, unfortunately, a lot of young Pisces, is that they are easily influenced by their surroundings. And if the surroundings are no good, they tend to assimilate very easily to the surroundings. They start trying drugs and alcohol and sedatives, I wrote here, I think. They are easily influenced by their surroundings and can fall into the danger of trying all sorts of sedatives and the like. They need to be careful with alcohol. Alcohol very much is dangerous for Pisces. If they drink too much of it, some signs are more sensitive in different parts of their body. Some with the heart, some with the liver, some with the kidneys. Everybody has different problems. Everybody has different weaknesses. They need to be careful with alcohol, amongst other things. They need to be careful with their surroundings. They can be easily influenced because they go with the flow. It's easier to go with the flow. And that's something that they have to watch for. It depends on what? Well, obviously, the rising can make a difference. The rising can give you much more strength. Sure, it could, sure. They have good memories, but they can't forget a debt. Now remember, they can lend you money, but if they took a loan, they can forget. Some signs never forget. Not a loan. Some signs forgot it even before they borrowed it. They intend not to repay it. I'm not going to say right now. But a Pisces simply may forget. On the other hand, the money that he just borrowed for himself, he's capable of giving that money away. You know, like the famous saying, taking the shirt off your own back and give it to somebody else. The Pisces is capable of that. He's free of greed and does not think too much about tomorrow. Does not plan for tomorrow. And you know what that does to him, by the way, by not thinking about tomorrow? He can get into serious economic trouble by overspending, not watching out. Some signs are very concerned about tomorrow. Capricorn and Cancer, the strongest of all, saving every penny, sometimes saving too much because they're saving for a rainy day. Pisces does not really think about these things too much. He's very charming in his manners and has a lazy good nature. If you start telling him how decadent society is, how polluted the air is, and how corrupt the government is, he will just yawn, smile, or just look sympathetic. He does not digest these things. He does not really care about these things. Very little excites him to violent action or reaction. But he's not completely bland either. He has a temper. They do get angry from time to time. Now, the angriness of Pisces has to do because he becomes irritable. And irritability has to do with mood swings. It has to do because of his emotions, if they are aroused. But they usually calm down easily. I didn't put the calming down quickly because I don't know. I really don't know how quickly they calm down, but I know they calm down easily. You can easily put your hand over their back and calm them down. How fast? I guess it all depends on how nice you are to them. But they do get angry from time to time. It's not the anger of that Leo or Sagittarius or Aries. It's more, it has to do more with their emotions and their feelings. As we said before, they're very sensitive. Pisces easily becomes moody. Moody, matzav ruach. His nature is such that he prefers to live in his own watery, gentle world where everything is beautiful. However, when reality is too terrible to face, he escapes into his daydreaming. He has a hard time coming out of failure, changing course, and making practical decisions. And he may hide behind illusions and false hopes. And I want to explain this a little bit more. This is another weakness that they have, is that when things go bad for them, they don't have the optimism of Sagittarius. They don't take things in stride like Aquarius. You know, if things are very, very bad, not that they're pessimistic, but they have their water sign, very similar to Cancer. They will just hide behind illusions and false hopes. They will not realize that it is time to change course. This didn't work out. Try something else. Get out of it. Make a practical decision. do it now. And they may not be able to do it on their own. They just continue to think about it and dream about it and get stuck in it. And it's hard for them to escape from these. And they're really illusions. And illusions have to do with, some people say it has to do with a certain lack of self-confidence. It doesn't really have to do with self-confidence. It has to do with the imagination. And Pisces has a tremendous imagination. And they start thinking of all sorts of things. It's not, they can be confident. I mean, it's just, but their imagination and their illusions take over. Many of them shirk from competition because of their shyness. They're not going to fight. But others go public and project their emotions and make excellent performers. The reason I put this in is because even though Pisces is shy, you will find many of them performing in public. And where? How could he perform in public if he's shy? No, many of them are able to overcome that shyness because if they want to project their emotions, they can do that. They can do that very well as performers, composers. You know, you could be in public too with all that shyness that you have, but if you're trying to project something, and some Pisces are very good in projecting their emotions, they make excellent performers. But what they do need is they need to get over their fear of hard work and the dullness of being patient. They'd like things to work out faster. They'd like to see success coming to them right away. And they realize that things don't happen so fast overnight. It takes time. But that is dull, boring, having to wait for so long and having to work hard. But that's what it takes. Success takes hard work and takes patience and takes years of experience. And they need to realize that with time, things will work out. And this is the extra page that I've added here with Pisces. As you will see, some very interesting points. They have a tender love for every living creature. Have you heard lately in the news about somebody who had 100 cats in his house, 250 rabbits, 55 squirrels, 2 opossums, and 5 raccoons? Very, very possible it was a Pisces. I don't know, I didn't check. They love animals. They love every living creature. Remember, they have compassion. But that compassion is not only for human beings, even for animals. You want a good example of a Pisces on your block? It will be the gregarious housewife, the gregarious woman who has a heart big enough for the troubles of all the neighbors. She can handle it. Or if you go to a bar, which we don't, but if you're ever in a bar, it's the bartender who listens sympathetically to hundreds of stories weekly. Some people don't want to hear it. They've had enough of it. They don't have the patience. Go tell somebody else your troubles. He is the one that will listen to hundreds of stories, one after another. Just to give you a quick example of where you can see them. As I told you earlier, they have, it's very interesting, a composite of a little bit of everything that you've heard till now from all the signs in them. I'm going to give you some quick examples. Pisces shows a bit of a composite of all the signs. He has the gentleness and the ability to concentrate on detail from Virgo. His judgment can be fair and detached. That should be detached as Libra. In other words, he can be objective. So is his love for pleasure, just like Libra. He has a crazy sense of fun, sympathy, and crabbiness, like Cancer. Sometimes full of outspoken frankness and generosity, like Sagittarius. Remember the Sagittarius? Talks his mind, but he's also generous. They have that. They can be very outspoken. Fun-loving, happy, and outgoing like Leo. For those of you who are not here, you're getting a little bit of a synopsis of each one. Devoted to duty and prone to melancholy as Capricorn. Remember Capricorn, the serious Capricorn can become melancholy. But devoted to duty. Likes to tease and to analyze like Aquarius. Lots of enthusiasm like Aries, but without the drive. Aries has a lot of drive, too much drive. The Pisces can have the enthusiasm all of a sudden. Not at all times, but all of a sudden. He can zip around quickly like a Gemini, talking just as fast. And it's hard to beat a Gemini, you know, they talk very fast. lazy, soft, and peaceful like Taurus. They can be. Strong penetration of the Scorpio, but without the ruthlessness of Scorpio. The penetration is the deep penetration of being able to figure out an individual. Has fondness of debates of the air signs. Remember, the air signs are communicative, they talk. He has a love for nature as the earth signs, aspiration like fire signs, and moody like water signs. So he has a little bit. Now, a lot of people may claim that, this is not so exact because I can show you that everything that you've said applies to every sign. But that's not true. I've taken the pains to bring out very, very specific characteristics that really belong only to Pisces. But I obviously admit that certain characteristics belong with other signs too. I mean, we have moody. All water signs can be somewhat moody. But you're not going to have too many fire signs that are moody. They can be sad one day perhaps, and even not one day, just for a few minutes. A fire sign does not remain sad for too long. So it's very tricky. If you're really honest, you will see that certain characteristics belong more in one sign more than another. Nevertheless, they do share. Aquarius and Capricorn, because they're very close to each other, well, not only because they're close, according to astrology, they share the same planet. One second. They share the same planet. Even though one is earth and one is air, they have certain things in common that people are not aware of. They're both somewhat conservative. Even though I said Aquarius was liberal, he can be very conservative. He can be strict. He can be stubborn. That's very much Capricornian. So there are certain similarities between certain signs. Pisces, if happy, works very, very well. Otherwise, he can withdraw. He keeps his thoughts to himself. If he would discuss them more openly, then a compromise may be able to be reached that would make the whole difference. That is another very important point that Pisces should keep in mind, that if he would talk a little bit more about the issues that are bothering him, and sometimes he does talk. The only time he actually talks is with somebody that he actually is very close to. But usually, if they would not keep their thoughts too much to themselves and hide behind their illusions, if they would bring it out to the open, whatever it is that is bothering, a compromise, a solution of sorts can be found. And if a solution is found, it can make a big difference in their life. So that would be good for them. It would be good for them to actually open up a little bit. Not that they're closed, but they withdraw. And when they withdraw, Cancer is much more difficult to reach. If he's withdrawn, remember, a week, for an entire week can go by and he doesn't answer his phones. With the Cancer, that can happen. Pisces is not like that. He needs to lean on someone. He needs to have someone. He cannot be by himself too long. But even during the time that he's by himself, very little can be accomplished if you're by yourself. And if you open up, you will get some bright idea from some Gemini perhaps, or even an Aquarius, who might make a big difference. Okay, anybody who's single here and is dating a Pisces man, what should you be aware of? Just some ideas. He's a dreamer, which is okay. The problem is he may miss opportunities. Can't just dream. If opportunity arises, you really have to evaluate it and grab it. Maybe that's your chance. Can't just continue to dream about what you would like to, what you would prefer. Very sensitive, easily hurt. So if you're the type to be very, very outspoken, if you're the type to not be too sensitive and too understanding, you may not get along with him. It may be a mismatch. That's why usually fire signs do not get along with water signs. And if you happen to know a couple that is water and fire, it's because they have water and fire in them too, or air, that can handle it. But they're still very different. Pisces is somewhat romantic and a good companion. What does a good companion mean? We'll talk to you about everything. Remember, if you're the companion, if you're the friend, they will talk to you about everything. They will be open. And everything is everything. We'll get into every little detail, everything that's bothering, everything that's on his mind. Some signs are so close and very loving, and they don't have to do that much talking. As long as they're sitting next to each other, holding hands or not holding hands, there does not have to be any communication. They're perfectly comfortable, and that's the way they like it. Some signs need to talk. Some signs talk a lot. A Pisces will talk, even though he's a water sign, and the water sign needs to feel that he is loved and he's cared for, but he likes to talk. And we'll talk to you about everything. And that's sometimes good because they make good companions. You want to go to a ball game? A Pisces will go along with you and will talk to you about the game. Don't take a Capricorn or a Taurus to a ball game. They'd rather sit at home. You see what I mean? Who wants to go out? What's wrong with one's home? What's wrong with just sitting on the sofa? There's different priorities, different interests. Emotional, very emotional. Gets angry and irritable, but usually is placid. Placid or placid? May have trouble being economical, I should say, and cautious about money. They may have trouble with that because, not because they're absent-minded like the Aquarius, they're not absent-minded, but they don't always pay attention. Certain things are not on their mind. Remember, feelings is on their mind, sensitivity, helping, and they may not be paying attention to some very important areas in life, and that's economics. That's an area that they may need to really be extra careful about. They're shy, may want to keep hidden his personal affairs. So, if you want to know more about him, you may have to get to know him a little bit better, and with time perhaps he will open up. Tolerant and a tender nature. Very tender, tender means soft. He's a softie. Great imagination, maybe sometimes deceptive. Deception comes with imagination. And deception also comes with the ability to talk. A good salesman. A Gemini, remember, can sell you a piece of junk. Yeah. He knows how to describe it beautifully. That all depends on, obviously, on his midot, on his good character, if he's refined or not. If he's honest, he would not do that. But he has it in his nature to cover up and to mislead. And Pisces, because he has a great imagination, he can be deceptive. He may fool you. He may not in trying to sell you something, but in doing something else. Very receptive to vibrations around him. You know what that means? Very, very sensitive to vibrations around him. There are some signs that are very sensitive to their surroundings. If they come into a room that is red, they don't feel good. Vibrations. The wrong people in the room, it makes them feel uncomfortable. Vibrations. They're just not comfortable. If you have Pisces in you, you will sometimes be uncomfortable around certain people. You will be uncomfortable around people altogether. If you want to be, especially if you want to be by yourself, depends on the mood. You see what I mean? So vibrations is a certain sensitivity of what's going on. It affects them. Libra, for some reason, even though it's an air sign, it also is affected. You know why Libra is affected by vibrations? Because Libra likes everything to be in harmony. Everything to be just right and perfect and peaceful and correct. And if things are not, if the scale is not balanced, it ruffles their feathers, as they say. They're usually very good. They're calm Libras, but they can sometimes become not calm.
And scream, the thing jumped up.
Yeah. And why is that? Because they would like things to be in harmony. Things are not always in harmony. Needs reassurance and understanding affection. Pisces is one of the signs that needs continuous reassurance that he's good, that he's admired, that he's loved. Now, wouldn't everybody want that? Of course, but this is important to him. To him, this is important. More than bread, more than cereal, more than meat, more than food. To him, this is important. Reassure him. You give him reassurance, He can go without food for the entire day. He's happy. It's more important to him. He may have many friends, men and women. Therefore, if you're a wife, control your jealousy. He will talk to everybody, to the men and to the women. He'll be nice to all of them. Now, there's one problem with Pisces here when it comes to women. He's a man. He admires beauty. And if he sees a beautiful woman, he may take his time looking. Every sign and every Mazal has certain weaknesses, and they need to work on this a little bit. They're married. Unless you're going out with a girl, you can't just look at any woman. Remember that. If you're married, if you're going out, you're dating, of course you better look at what you're dating. Right? You don't want to be surprised later on. But they admire beauty, and therefore they may look and talk and be nice to everyone. He's the type that he will follow the leader. If he respects them, he's a follower. Children will find him to be fun. He's not the strict daddy that will dictate. He can be very fun with kids. But when depressed, one idea that I put down here is trick him into going somewhere. If your Pisces man, husband, is depressed, take him somewhere. Go out with him. Surprise him. I just bought tickets to some show. Get him out of the home. Get him out. That's the only way to get out of it. Just one idea. All right. Any men dating Pisces women here? Okay. The Pisces woman does not overshadow the man. She does not want to dominate him. That's good to know. She's not a fire sign that wants to be the one in charge. Wants to be protected and cared for. That's one of the main priorities she's looking for in a man. He should protect and take care of her. She's a good listener. She's calm and caring. And she's very feminine. I didn't write the words very feminine, I don't think, in any other sign. There are other signs that can be quite feminine, but I put it in Pisces because Pisces women are known to be very feminine. In high school, or in elementary school actually, by those who are not very religious, a lot of boys choose for their Valentine a Pisces girl. Yeah, I've read a lot about that. It just happens to be that they're the soft, they're the easygoing, they're the listeners. They don't want to be the ones who will take the lead. They'll let you take the lead. Great, perfect, everything a man or boy may want. The Valentine. So they're very feminine. Will not be hard on you, will not blame you for your mistakes. That's good. Usually will not blame you for your mistakes. Depends how many times you make the mistake. But they're really, really okay about that. They're soft and dreamy. Does not understand economy very well. Now you may have a Pisces woman who's in a bank, working in a bank. So this is really more general. But may need help reconciling her bank account. That's one area that she may need some help with. Sentimental, many moods. And as a mother, may be too permissive, afraid of imposing or pushing too hard. She's a Pisces. Devoted wife, homemaker, and tender mother. As I said before, she has a lot of good qualities, a feminine woman, and can play these roles very, very well. Gives all her heart to her children. Now, somebody might tell me, well, I'm this or this sign, and I also give all my heart to my children. Obviously, we hope all mothers give their heart to their children. But there's a big difference. If you have air in you, you may just want to be not bothered. And you may want to read your book. Even though you've just come home from work, that's the first thing you may want to do. Your first thing may not be your kids. Change diapers. I mean, not every woman likes to change diapers. Most men don't like to change diapers. It all depends, obviously. But a Pisces woman will give all her heart to her children. When feelings are wounded, she will cry buckets. Now, I added the word buckets here because I felt that crying alone is not enough. If you want to understand what a Pisces woman will do when she cries, buckets. A lot of tears. By the way, this applies to men too. Any man who has water in him, Cancer, Scorpio, or Pisces, but not so much Scorpio, because Scorpio will hide his tears. He doesn't want to be seen as weak. But deep down, he's very hurt. But a Cancer and a Cancer man and a Pisces man will cry in public. And they will not be ashamed of it. They will see a movie that will move them. They will cry. It takes 2 seconds to turn on their tears. Needs very much to belong to someone. She needs to be married. She needs to have a good close friend. Anybody that has water in them needs to belong. Needs to be told that she's admired and respected and liked. Don't forget her birthday and anniversary. Now you might tell me, wait a minute. Neither does a Taurus woman want you to forget her birthday and anniversary. Yes, that's true. But you're going to make her cry. The Taurus won't talk to you for 24 hours if you forget her birthday. You know, she'll be upset at you. But she won't cry unless she has Pisces in her. Then she can cry. Advice for Pisces children. Enjoys diversions and music. Fun. Maybe artistic, so look out for it. Schedules and routines are his enemies. He likes it easy. He's lazy. Needs a healthy amount of attention. Needs to be encouraged and appreciated very, very much. Very much. Very, very much. This particular sign needs a lot of that. Don't blame him too much. You have to be careful. If you're a Capricorn, Taurus father of a Pisces child, if you are a Leo father, if you are a, let's see, who else? Virgo, yes, definitely Virgo. Be careful. Don't criticize, don't blame this miskinim, these poor little kids. Don't blame him too much. He's very sensitive to harshness. Very sensitive to harshness. They're sensitive, but especially to harshness. Tears may be frequent. You will see them a lot, more than other kids. Has compassion, gentleness, and tolerance, usually. Teach him to cope with poverty, disease, hypocrisy, and ingratitude. The reason I put that at the very end, you may not understand what I mean by that. Why should you teach a child about poverty, disease? What I really meant is, teach a Pisces child about the reality of life early on. You don't want him to be surprised and shocked that there are hypocrites in this world later on. Remember, he's a softie. He's the one that they're going to take advantage of, and a lot of people will take advantage of a Pisces. It's very easy. Teach him early on, hey, there are hypocrites out there. There are bad and evil people. There are people who are not grateful. There is disease, there is poverty, there's problems in the world. Learn to deal with it, learn to cope with it, learn to understand it. Don't let that burden you too much. Understand it. Now, if you want to devote your life like Mother Teresa to the kids in Calcutta, fine. There are people, there are Pisces people who are in convents, there are priests, there are all sorts of people who are devoted to all sorts of things, meditating. They have the imagination, they have the sensitivity, they have the spirituality, you can call it, to do all sorts of things. Obviously, if you're a Jew, a Jewish father, Jewish mother, you have children who have certain sensitivities, they need to be guided. Advice for Pisces boss. He has creative ideas. Listen to them. They may actually be good ideas. He's very sensitive. And as far as being a boss, I put here the best boss he could be is if he were to lead a charitable organization. He can't really be a boss of a big company because he doesn't want to take too much responsibilities. Needs conservative employees to maintain order. He can definitely use a Capricorn or a Taurus or a Virgo at work to make order, to do things properly in the right way, that the money is not lost or wasted. So he can definitely use somebody who's more conservative. He will not be mean, does not take on too much responsibility, so if he gives it to you, well, that's the way it will be. Will listen to you sincerely, because he's sincere. Fears ridicule. He doesn't want to be hurt. He's very sensitive. So you have to be very careful that you don't look down at him, you don't point out his mistakes. Has a hard time saying no. Doesn't mean you should take advantage of him. Just be aware that if you're the employee and you are a Capricorn and you're interested in saving his company, then perhaps you may have to be the one saying no, because he will have a hard time. Can be depressed and moody. So be understanding of that. Has compassion and will cheer you up. Now this last one is very interesting. He needs to be cheered, and here he has the ability to cheer others. Just like we said before, he wants to be, he accepts to be leaned on, but he also needs to lean on others. He has the ability to be both. Let's go real quickly through the midot. The Pisces have to work on his arrogance. He's not an arrogant person. Anava, is he humble? Usually he doesn't lack humbleness. Busha, is he timid, shy, bashful? Usually he has enough of that. Azut, does he have audacity? Is he very aggressive? No. He's soft and tender. Ahava, does he love? Is he capable of demonstrating his love? Yes, usually. Yeah, he's sentimental, even for animals. Sin'ah, does he hate? Doesn't have a problem with hatred. Except for if it's routines, remember? And certain responsibilities, but that doesn't count. Rachamim, is he compassionate? Perhaps one of the most. Achzariut, is he cruel? Not a problem with it. How about simcha? Is he always happy? Not always. He can be happy like a Leo. He can be very happy, but he has to be in the moods. He has to maybe work on his simcha. Da'aga, is he worried? Not enough. He should be a little worried about people's intentions. Harata, does he easily regret or change his mind? Well, he's versatile. He's flexible. So he can regret. He can change his mind. Is that good or bad? Well, it all depends what we're talking about. If you make a promise, usually you want to keep the promise. A person who has too much harata, regrets, then it's not good. He will change his mind. Too flexible is also not good. You have to be consistent. Kaas, does he get angry? Yes, once in a while, but he calms down easily. So he has to work on his kaas, not to get angry and upset about little things. Ratzon, can you appease him? Yes, usually you can appease him. You just give him a big hug. You show him that you care for him, that you respect him. Kin'a, is he jealous? No, doesn't really have a problem with jealousy. Zrizut, he has a problem with zrizut. Zrizut means to be diligent and quick to do things. He may take his time. He may be lazy about it. He may push it off. He maybe wants to dream and think about it. So zrizut he has to work on. That's one of the midot that this Mazal has to work on. Zeirut, he also needs to work on it. Is he cautious enough? Not always. He may need the help to be more cautious. He may need to be told to not jump into something. Aslut, yes, he has to work on his laziness. Nedibut, is he generous? Usually not a problem. Tsakanut, is he stingy? Not a problem. He's not stingy. Zechira, does he remember? He has a good memory except for death perhaps. He does forget certain things. Shichecha, does he forget? Forgetfulness could be bad or could be good. Does he forget an insult? Well, he's not a Scorpio that remembers everything for the rest of his life. But he's definitely hurt. He's definitely very, very badly scarred. So he may need to learn to be a little bit more forgetful and forgiving for those kind of things. And to be careful not to be forgetful about things that you shouldn't forget. Shetika, does he know how to keep his mouth shut? He's very talkative. Sometimes Pisces is known to say something by mistake, and it really ruins it for him. So he has to learn a little bit to control, to not talk too much. Sheker, he can be deceiving. He may have a problem with sheker. Yes, this is one of the signs that may need to work on sheker, on being 100% truthful. Even though they care, they're sentimental, they're kind and charitable, they can be deceiving. It's all part of their imagination. Emet, being truthful, they need to work on. Hanifut, can they flatter? Are they into flattery? Not really. They're not so much into flattery. Unless they, of course, want to deceive you. Lashon hara, do they have a weakness of gossiping? Unfortunately, this is a weakness of many people, not just Pisces. Some people, the ones who are more quiet have less of a problem with this. The ones who are more talkative can have this problem, this tendency. They don't necessarily have the problem of Lashon hara. You know why? Because they're not prejudiced. They don't accuse people of wrongdoing. They don't blame. So usually they don't have a problem with Lashon Hara. But if they hear about other people's troubles, they may start talking about it, and that's how it could spread. Teshuvah means to repent and to change course. They have a problem with it. Why? Remember? They're into their illusions. They don't necessarily change course easily. Especially if a person is not 100% emet, he may have a hard time admitting his mistakes. So that may be a little bit of a difficulty. And to do teshuvah, you can't be lazy. So that may be a little bit of a hurdle. Torah, to learn Torah means you have to be consistent, you have to be regular, you have to have a routine. Pisces doesn't like routines. So you may have a problem with learning on a regular basis, going to a class. How about Yirat Shamayim, God-fearing? God-fearing means to respect authority. They follow the leader. They don't have a problem with submitting themselves. So that should not be so much of a problem. Savanut, patience, they can be. It depends for who and for what. Ta'avah, do they have ta'avot? Yes, unfortunately, they're very strong in ta'avot. They may like to drink. They may like certain things. They may like to smoke because it calms them down, because it makes them forget, because it makes them just distract themselves. So they may have certain ta'avot that they need to conquer, certain desires. Kavod, they don't pursue kavod. They don't care for the rank and position. Nekama, they don't take revenge. Dikaon, can they be depressed? Yes, they have moods. They have to work on that. And finally, we have Litzanut. Do they make fun? Yes, they can be jokers. But you know what? There's one good thing about Litzanut. As I mentioned earlier, you have people who know how to make people laugh, who know how to make people happy. In a joking way. If that's their intention, and if that is their ability, that is a mitzvah, and that should be encouraged. That is a good deed. It's a beautiful deed. Okay, just to wrap up our astrology, Baruch Hashem, we're finished. And in the coming weeks, we'll have one shiur probably about the high holidays, Rosh Hashanah and Kippur, and we'll be getting back into our series of the 70 most difficult questions in Judaism, of which the next ones will include reincarnation, because we just finished speaking about the human soul, and zivugim, how do you know who your soulmate is? Even if you're married, maybe you made a mistake. Chaz v'shalom. So we'll be talking about that. But real quickly, just about astrology. For those of you who were here from the beginning, I hope you understand now that every human being is special. Every sign is special in some way. Beginning with Aries. Aries belongs to the fire signs. They contribute a lot by initiating. They have tremendous enthusiasm. They have tremendous drive. They will react differently than other signs when faced with a challenge, when faced with a problem, when faced with something that they don't like or like. Their reaction will be usually with fire. Aggressive, open, blunt. And you may not like that, but that's the way they are. Then comes the Taurus, who's a much more stubborn, rigid, right? Easygoing in a sense. Easygoing meaning that he's slower, warm, but reserved, right? Then you have the Gemini, who was more air, communicative, friendly, diligent, hardworking, taking upon herself or himself many things at the same time where nobody else could handle it. Right? Then we had the Leo, right? The Cancer. Cancer, who was very protecting of her kids, of her money, right? Very sensitive. Also moody, but being the first water sign, also initiative, hardworking, thinking about the future. Then we had the Leos, who are also a fire sign, a leadership sign, not as impulsive as the Aries, but nevertheless with a big golden heart of helping out and accomplishing for the greater cause, thinking of the bigger picture, wanting to take charge, not shy and not afraid. Great. And then we have the Virgo, who looks at everybody else and says, you guys are all sloppy, or you guys are not organized. I'm going to organize and make a seder of all this mess. Very detailed, very punctual, very strict and demanding. Remember? Then we went into Libra. I want peace. I don't want the war. I want everything in harmony. Everything should be balanced. Everything should be beautiful, right? Excellent judges. Why? Because they're fair, they're truthful, they're honest. Then we went on to Scorpio. Very strong feelings, very ambitious, strong-minded, but also devoted. Very devoted, can become a workaholic. But very dangerous. If you hurt him, he can take revenge. We went to Sagittarius, one of the most funniest ones, if not the funniest of all the 12 signs. Very optimistic, very easygoing and adaptable too, but with a tremendous amount of happiness, with a philosophical outlook, a very broad outlook. Then we went on to Capricorn, very ambitious, very much aspiring, very serious, and also rigid. It's an earth sign, very economical, not very thrifty, not a big spender. We went on to Aquarius, another air sign, who is much more friendlier, much more accepting, also more talkative, because he's an air sign, but also with a tremendous amount of idealism of trying to fix this world, which is not always realistic, but tremendous idealism and also tremendous powers of endurance and of patience, of dealing with people, of being friendly to everyone. And we've come to Pisces, who is very sensitive and sentimental and compassionate and considerate, and obviously can get easily hurt, but he's very, very helpful. Don't take advantage of him, right? He's the one who's very vulnerable and people take advantage. He's a good heart, a good, kind nature, very soft and tender nature person, has his weaknesses, has his strengths, contributes like everybody else does. What we've seen from all the 12 signs, I've given you a little bit of every one of. Everyone reacts differently. In given a certain situation, people react completely differently. Be understanding. Be very understanding that people are what they are. They're not necessarily wicked or evil when they do something that you dislike, that you do not approve of, that you did not expect. They're just being themselves. You may be able to handle it. You may not be able to handle it, but it definitely will help a lot if you understand that that's the way they are. If you understand that this is the way that this is their real nature, then it will be easier for you to handle. Does that mean that they have to remain that way, that they can't be accommodating to you? No. They obviously have to be accommodating. They obviously have to realize that you may be different, and people have to make a compromise. When they get married, if people are very, very different, they have to make compromises. Hopefully, the ones you marry and the ones who are very close to you will be similar to you, but that's not what life is all about. In life, you will marry hopefully 1 or 2 people, tops, right? Sometimes 3 or 4, right? But not at the same time. Well, it depends. Yeah, it depends where, right? Now, but you will be living and having to get along with hundreds and thousands of people. And one of the greatest successes in life, what I'm saying, and with this I want to finish, one of the greatest successes in life is to know how to get along with everyone, to have a good name, to be easygoing. As one of the points that we pointed out is be soft. Don't be too strict, don't be too hard, don't be too demanding and always being right. Accept people for what they are, try to understand and try to be gentle with all of them. Even if you're rigid and hard, there are certain things that we can all adapt. As Shlomo Melech tells us, Tov Shem Ishem and Tov Yom HaMavet Yom HaValedo. It's better to have a good name, a good reputation. The day of death will be celebrated a lot more than the day of birth. Because in the day of birth, all the little babies, whether they're Pisces or Aries, are all cute. But that Aries may become a monster, not you. Yeah. And that Pisces may turn out to be, yeah, it could be a Moshe Rabbeinu, right? Yeah. Right? It could be a Moshe Rabbeinu. What we see is what the rabbis have told us. Everyone should always aspire to be the way his forefathers were. When will my ways become close? Emulate the ways of my forefathers, Abraham, Yitzhak, Yaakov. In other words, everybody has the potential to grow. Everybody has been given the tools through his mazal to become whatever he needs to become. That's a very special person. If we follow the roadmap, which is the Torah, then our chances are better, B'ezrat Hashem, of fulfilling our mission. Thank you very much.
If anybody wants a free Jewish calendar,
And compassionate, easily hurt, and lazy. Okay? If his hour is Aquarius, depending on the hour you're born, if his hour is Aquarius, then that Pisces will be not your typical Pisces. He will have air in him. And that air of Aquarius will make him a little bit less moody. It will make him a little bit, he still will be a dreamer, but not as moody, not as dejected. You won't feel as hurt as a typical Pisces. He will take things more in stride. He will not be as, insulted, right, as the typical Pisces. And if he has a Leo or an Aries rising instead of an Aquarius, he might actually be more blunt in his speech. Say, you're a Pisces? Why don't you be more tactful? Because he has that fire, that drive. He still will be sentimental. He still will be sentimental because of the Pisces in him, but he might be more aggressive. He might be more pushy because of the fire in him. You see what I mean? So that's where all the signs adjust themselves a little bit. I want to just say again, Bezrat Hashem, next week, I hope really we should start on time. We started very late tonight. That's only because of the PowerPoint. Most of the lectures will not have the PowerPoint, so I really want to start at 9 o'clock. So don't get used to the late schedule.
When's your next lecture?